This is the quantum mechanics of the soul. This is the teachings of being a hermaphrodite. This is the teaching of eternity. This is the teaching of living in the now. This is the teaching of you living in neutral. So what do I mean by hermaphrodite? What do I mean by, eternity? What do I mean by balance? What do I mean by living in the now? Well, it's actually very simple. As human beings who are fallen into density by following another being, aka Lucifer, who held an accumulation of light, and us following that being, we thought we're going to become like it, aka we're going to be holding this big ball of light and we're going to be the center of attention everywhere we go and things like that. And you see people playing that out in third dimensional density, friends, family members, teachers, and things like that. Some people think the whole world revolves around them. In fact, you might have this idea in your head when you was a child or you growing up that somehow the world revolves around you. And it does, yes, and at the same time it doesn't. It does from the perspective of all energy, as far as what they refer to in NASA as a neutrino, an invisible particle that is able to, take on the identity, shape, and form of the user that it passes through. And so you being a harnesser of energy, because your body is really like a coil of energy, and you're harnessing this universal energy, this universal chi around you, you're able to anchor in these different types of energies. But based on whatever mental disposition that you have chosen, if you don't know how to be neutral, if you don't know how to be a hermaphrodite, if you don't know how to live in eternity, if you don't know how to balance your feminine and masculine, your positive and negative, then you're going to find yourself in a position where you're playing at an extremity of either or. So, this is why nowadays we have these things called toxic masculinity, because some men feel like, they need to play out this extreme form of masculine signature energy. And it's not really good or bad, but it's good to be balanced internally as far as with your feminine energy as well, because really you're just losing one spectrum of a holistic reality. Because last time I checked, there's no night without day and there's no day without night. Now these things, we observe these things just due to us being inside of this type of let's just call it parameter and things like that. But in actuality and in reality, these things actually exist within ourselves, and the only reason why you're not able to observe it within you is because you're too busy paying attention to concepts, people, places, and things that get you lost in a polar shift and give you a name and a title for you to keep following that narrative that has been provided to you by masons nearby or some masons far away in some other shores. But basically, again, all these narratives and all these spots to steer your mind in a particular direction is organized via message boards and things like that. So a lot of these things is not accidents. Black Lives Matter, all these events is set up and brought to you by masons who create scenarios and things like that to capture your mind and make you play out a specific narrative. This way they can continue to harness the energy that you're playing out. But the only way you're able to play out these narratives is if you are an imbalanced individual and you can't see beyond the veil. Meaning that, let's say you're a very angry person, so you're very pissed off. The moment you walk in the room, you might be a Virgo, let's say. You might walk in the room, there might be socks on the floor or something like that. Then you might be getting ready to go off. The dishes is not done. You might be getting ready to go off. And so if you don't know how to equalize that energy that you're using to perceive or receive information, then you're going to see yourself playing out extremities or negative aspects or shifts of that, light rate in the sky based on whatever time you was born and things like that. And so you want to be able to balance yourself and not go to do extremes in certain situations. Now some situations might require to be extremes. Now God is all things and everything, and so you can play out all things and everything, but I don't recommend you be all things and everything. Otherwise you would have already expanded beyond this parameter. And if you was a spirit who went through a lot of expansions and contractions, you wouldn't need to necessarily come back down here. Now you could if you want to, because that's an option. But once you expand beyond a certain point, you're just gonna go somewhere else because your consciousness will be too powerful for this planet. Because you will come here and you'll be like Transmistus Magestas. You'll be like all these figures, these Atlantean priests and things like that have been creating all these technologies and all these methods and all these ways to assist people in balancing themselves and things like that. And so that's your destiny as well. That's your those are your abilities as well. And some of these magicians through times and things like that, some people say these are the same people coming back again and again. No problem. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you learn how to balance both aspects of yourself, how to balance the aspects and attributes within yourself, so you don't get flunked out and things like that. And based on whatever karmic debt you have manifested in your life, you might be in a position where you might have, let's say, inconjunctions. You might have a lack of ability to balance yourself when it comes to certain principles, or you might find yourself having a lot of oppositions, let's say, in your chart. You might find yourself having opposing principles, and you might go back and forth between these things, and these things don't have balance. But yet, for a world to exist, you need both night and day, and these are two complete opposites, but yet they work together to create a holistic view. And so it is not bad if you have certain aspects, good or bad. There's no such thing as good or bad. It's just understanding the operation of these things and how to bring about the highest possible good for your life, and not to get lost in an extreme situation. Like, for example, you cussing a mother out on when you're driving down the road, and all of a sudden this person gets out of their car and you're in your car, and this person want to break your window and pull you out your car, blah 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 blah. That's a person that's going way too extreme in a situation that doesn't require that. And so this is why in the hood we have a lot of what the boondocks refer to as nigga moments, where two niggas who don't even know each other would, and this goes for any race, any two people that would meet each other and go extreme at a moment where it's not necessary, where it could end up with fatal death. So now you have added more to your karmic debt, and now you just told the universe and God that, hey, you have more things to lessen, so God, please give me harsher lessons and things like that. And you don't necessarily need to be in those things, but how you even get there in the first place is by you not being able to be neutral, not being able to equalize yourself in the first place, and you not getting lost in the extreme polar shifts that you're creating inside of you, that you're also affecting other people with, and things like that. And so you can find, and there's a lot of different words made up for this. Some people use the word narcissist, some people use the word psychopath, some people use the words a condescending person, and all these things are words that are pointing to states of minds that people use to operate. And these things can be looked at as well as degrees in the sky and things like that, or a combination of these things, because the mind is an alchemy. And when you use your mind, you mix thoughts and feelings, masculine and feminine principles, for you to create a state of mind and things like that. And so you might be, like I said, you might be extreme on the feminine side. You might be too into your own space, and you might not know how to use your masculine. You might need to express yourself more in the world, and you might need to know how to structure yourself and what to love and appreciate and value and things like that. Or you might be a man who externalizes all the time without necessarily feeling what's going on around you in the parameter, because your feelings is like water. Water holds memory, like Dr. Emoto, I believe, did an experiment on that, and you're able to observe or absorb the emotions going on, and you're able to read that energy, and that gives you an understanding of what's going on in a particular situation. But if you're an unbalanced individual, you wouldn't have access to those spiritual gifts, and everybody has different spiritual gifts and things like that. That's why it's very, very important to begin the process of identifying yourself and who you are as an individual, because you have a different set of attributes and characteristics, as well as different set of experiences, as well as a different set of parents who themselves have attributes and characteristics. You might have grew up in a household where it's all men. You might have grew up in a household where it's all female, vice versa. You might be a twin. You might be the middle child. You might have grew up in a specific geographical location that allows certain virtues and principles to be injected in your mind, as it was prioritized by the rulership, as far as the religious system in your geographical location, as well as the entertainment that's prioritized in your geographical location. And there's all these different forms of these things that exist all around the world. But sometimes if you're limited, let's say you live in Afghanistan and things like that, some things, some information, some knowledge, some information is essentially going to be limited due to the controllers of that geographical location and things like that. Now, I'm not hating on Afghanistan. I'm sure there's a lot of relics. I'm sure there's a lot of things in there that are below the sand that if we were to dig out, it would be of major discovery as to what was going on in the past, and things of that nature. But the important thing is, regardless where you are in the world, God always makes things possible through you. And you have to remember that God would never give you the desire for something, or the vision of something, or the feeling of something, or the ability to communicate something unless it was possible for you. And so, you don't want to be an individual who constantly harnesses the states of mind of fear, doubt, and unbelief, because now you have brought yourself down into the lower state of purgatory, which is the red frequency. And a lot of spirits right now, since you can only see 1%, keep in mind, you can only see 1% of the electromagnetic spectrum. So therefore, by definition, there's all these different frequencies and lights and spectrums that we can't see. So you may believe that you can actually see the light, but you're actually incorrect. You actually live in darkness and you aren't able to perceive the darkness. And so there's all this darkness all around us. This just simply means that we need to be in tune more with our spiritual senses so we can begin to be psychic senseis, and we can actually use our senses to sense these things. But you've been given logic, you've been given words, you've been given certain forms of going about being practical in the world and things like that. And sometimes that can stifle your right brain, which is your creative potential, is your feminine energy. Because remember, everywhere in the world, the feminine energy and the masculine energy are either demasculined or just destroyed and distorted into a different man's and woman's point of view and things like that. This is why, again, you have the Dark Brotherhood, however you want to call them. They want to shape your point of view so that you don't have the ability to harness things from your own point of view. And so this gives them a major advantage as far as them being able to direct. I just ate some salmon right now, so that shit was good. So processing that. But that gives them the advantage for them to steer your mind in a particular direction. And that gives them the advantage as well for you not to question what's going on. So you may be receiving very little from what you're doing from a practical, logical perspective. It might be leading you to your demise, but you won't question it because they made you guys serve a God or create a perception where other people, places, and things around you as well are doing the same thing. So you don't have the courage or the internal implosion to take that out and create an explosion internally to express what it is that you feel and things like that. So we get lost in the things of the world due to a lack of balance. And the Masons understand this. They understand that if they make you guys extreme in certain areas, look at what they did with the man and the woman. Women in the West, they made them extremely masculine, and women in the East, they made them, what's the word? They made them hide their femininity, and so they always swap these variables, and they play juggle ball games, and now they're about to do a new narrative now. So now that the females are basically in the West are in a space where most women are single, most women can't find a man, most women can't find a husband, and things like that. They're about to create a new narrative where, okay, I don't know what's going to be exactly, because I can't read their mind at the end of the day, but they're always swapping these narratives to keep you busy, to keep you distracted of what truly matters. And so, when you understand, these ancient texts, and, you don't need to understand these ancient texts or anything like that, because you're already doing these things with your mind, but you need to understand how to gain your mind back and how to stop giving it to people, places, and things that don't value you and your time and don't appreciate your self-worth. But remember, if you sign up for a situation, person, place, or thing that doesn't appreciate your worth, doesn't appreciate your value, that doesn't love you for being you, you have to understand that the same flock of birds flocks together for a reason, and eagles fly in a higher altitude for a reason, because chances are you're all people of fear, doubt, and unbelief. And so if you're people of doubt and fear, doubt, and unbelief, and you just operate under the purgatory mentality, that means that you're also going to attract and live along with other people that do the same thing. Now, you may not like each other, but this is the only atmosphere that you guys feel comfortable with operating in. Even though you guys have different virtues and principles, they know that they can keep you guys in this pot of fear, doubt, and unbelief. And due to you guys being already spirits out of purgatory for the most part, they're able to throw in their variables and make you guys kill each other, hate each other, divide you. So it becomes a very few people who become archangels and archdemons, and they rule over you. So, these people are actually very mentally advanced. Not really at the same time, but they kind of are. Because really, they're kind of fucking themselves at the same time. Like, we're supposed to all eventually leave this atmosphere and density. You can go by yourself, but eventually this whole place is supposed to rise up and become lighter and things like that, but not but they want you guys to go there to their new realm of reality, because regardless, they see you guys as the sheep that they want to continue to harness, and they want to continue to build dreams, realms, and realities that become densities out of, because you guys is like, spirits that are basically afraid and things like that. Now, I used to be one of those spirits that are afraid, worried, doubtful, and things like that. But you need to be able to pay your karmic debt in full in this universe, so you can be light and free, so you can go do something else. So don't get lost in none of these narratives. Always remember to bring yourself back in a state of balance. Whenever you have a thought or a feeling that pulls you out into an extremity, remember to bring yourself back into a neutral position, so you can be in eternity, so you can observe things from a level playing field, a level playing field. Or you can, whenever you want to, you can switch and morph into the eagle's vision, because you already have this ability to transform constantly, but based on you only agreeing to terms and conditions. However, you sign your spiritual contract, which is a mental contract, an agreement of how you should operate, think, and feel. You've limited yourself from certain outcomes based on you just leaving your certain mentalities behind. And so that's why in the movie The Transformers, they were trying to tell you that you are a transformer yourself, but you're a mental transformer. And when you understand how to mentally transform, you will actually see your physical features begin to transform. In fact, you will actually begin, not right now just yet, but you as a spirit, you will actually create new organs, new astral organs and things like that. And eventually, you'll actually even create new physical organs. If you're doing this for like 500, 300, 600 years, and you have another group of spirits that are just as wise as you, just as aware as you, and you guys know what are you guys doing? Yeah, you will create a whole new specimen of humans, a whole new sub group of humans and things like that. So it can become extremely powerful. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say today. May love and peace be with you. Make sure you take care of yourself, because your health is more important than anything the world can offer you. I love you, appreciate you. Ain't nothing you can do about it.